On a Friday evening in September, a mother of two dropped her children off with their babysitter, kissed them goodbye, and drove to her night shift at the hospital. She expected to pick them up the next morning. When she arrived, the house was empty. The babysitter's car was gone, and her two children, ages 4 and 6, had completely vanished. She called the babysitter's phone 27 times in a row. Every call went straight to voicemail. She called her husband, she called the babysitter's mother, she called every friend she could think of, and then she called 911. What unfolded over the next 11 days would become one of the most widely covered missing children cases in that state's recent history. This is the story of what happened when a family trusted the wrong person with the most important people in their lives. And the investigation that followed reveals something deeply important about how these cases unfold and what families and communities can do when every second counts. Welcome back to Plain English Guide. Today's story involves missing children, which is one of the most emotionally difficult categories of true crime. Names and identifying details have been changed to protect the families involved. This story is based on documented child abduction cases in the United States. If it affects you personally, please take care of yourself while watching. The Henderson family lived in a quiet suburb outside Charlotte, North Carolina. David and Lisa Henderson had been married for 8 years. Their daughter Ella was 6 years old. Their son Noah was 4. By all accounts, they were a typical working family. Both parents employed full-time, both deeply involved in their children's lives, and both doing everything right. The challenge they faced was childcare. Lisa worked rotating shifts as a hospital nurse. David managed a warehouse that required occasional weekend overtime. Finding consistent, reliable childcare for 2 young children on irregular schedules was something they had struggled with for years. So when a woman named Rachel came highly recommended by a colleague at Lisa's hospital, they felt like they had finally found the answer. Rachel was 31 years old. She had been babysitting and working in childcare for nearly a decade. She had references, she had a clean background check. She was warm, patient, and the children adored her immediately. Ella called her Miss Rachel within the first week. Noah would run to the door when she arrived. For 8 months, everything was perfect. Not a single concern. Not one red flag that either parent could identify in hindsight. What the Hendersons did not know was that Rachel had been going through a significant personal crisis for several months. She had separated from her long-term partner. She had lost her apartment and was staying with a friend. She had significant financial debt, and she had become increasingly fixated on the idea of starting a new life somewhere far away. None of this was visible to the family. She was professional, cheerful, and completely reliable right up until the night she was not. On the evening of September 14th, Lisa dropped Ella and Noah at Rachel's temporary address, a friend's house where Rachel had been staying for 6 weeks. The children were in good spirits. Ella had her backpack. Noah had his favorite stuffed bear. Lisa hugged them both, reminded them to be good, and drove to the hospital for her overnight shift. She had no reason to feel anything other than the usual working parent guilt of leaving her children. What happened next was reconstructed by investigators from surveillance footage, cell tower data, and witness accounts. At approximately 9:47 p.m., 2 hours after Lisa dropped the children off, Rachel began loading bags into her car. At 10:15 p.m., she buckled both children into the back seat. At 10:23 p.m., she drove out of the neighborhood. Her phone was turned off at 10:31 p.m., and she did not stop driving until she was 4 states away. Lisa arrived at 7:15 a.m. the following morning to pick up the children. She knocked. No answer. She called. Voicemail. She knocked harder. A neighbor emerged and said she had not seen Rachel's car since the previous night. Lisa walked around the house and looked through a window. The living room was empty. The children's shoes, which Ella always left by the door, were gone. She called 911 at 7:34 a.m. Officers arrived within 8 minutes. They confirmed the house was empty. Rachel's belongings were largely gone. The homeowner, Rachel's friend, had been at work overnight and had no idea what had happened. Investigators immediately classified the case as a child abduction. An Amber Alert was issued for Ella and Noah Henderson at 8:52 a.m. Within 2 hours, the case was being covered by local news across 3 states. Investigators moved fast. Cell tower data showed Rachel's phone had been active until 10:31 p.m. the previous night, placing her on a highway heading southwest. They pulled footage from toll cameras, gas station surveillance systems, and highway rest stop cameras along the most likely route. By the end of the first day, they had confirmed sightings of Rachel's vehicle at a gas station in Georgia at 3:17 a.m., with both children visible in the back seat. The FBI joined the investigation on day 2. Investigators began building a comprehensive profile of Rachel, her finances, her relationships, her digital footprint. They discovered she had been researching one-way bus routes, off-grid communities, and remote rental properties for several weeks before the disappearance. This was not impulsive. It had been planned. And that realization changed the urgency of the entire investigation. On day 3, David Henderson made a public appeal on local news. He sat at a table with a photo of Ella and Noah and spoke directly to Rachel. He did not express anger. He spoke calmly and said simply, "Please bring them home. They need their mother. They need their family. Whatever is happening in your life, we can help. Just bring them back safe." The appeal was shared over 40,000 times on social media within 24 hours. Tips began flooding the investigation hotline. Over 600 calls in 72 hours. Most were dead ends. But on day 5, a motel owner in rural Tennessee recognized Rachel's photo from a news broadcast and called police. He had rented a room to a woman matching her description 3 days earlier, with 2 young children. She had paid cash. She had used a fake name, but the motel's external security camera had captured a clear image of her car's license plate. Investigators triangulated Rachel's likely location based on the motel sighting and continued surveillance footage tracking. On day 8, they identified a small rental cabin in a remote part of eastern Tennessee, booked under a different name, but paid with a prepaid card purchased at a store. Rachel had been captured on camera, entering 2 weeks before the disappearance. Law enforcement surrounded the property at 6:14 a.m. on day 9. Negotiators made contact with Rachel by phone. After a 2-hour conversation, she opened the door. Ella and Noah walked out holding hands. Both children were physically unharmed. Both were frightened and disoriented, but medically evaluated on scene and cleared. Ella was clutching a drawing she had made, a picture of her mother with the words, "I love you, Mummy," written in crayon underneath. Investigators said it was one of the most affecting moments any of them had witnessed on the job. Lisa and David were notified immediately and drove through the night to reach their children. The reunion took place at a hospital in Tennessee, where the children were being monitored. David later said in an interview that the moment he saw Ella and Noah walk toward him was the moment he understood what people meant when they said time stopped. Both children received counseling in the months that followed. Both recovered well. Rachel was arrested at the cabin and extradited to North Carolina. She faced multiple felony charges, including 2 counts of child abduction, custodial interference, and identity fraud. During her psychological evaluation, she told investigators she had not intended to harm the children. She described a mental health crisis over months and a distorted belief that she was protecting Ella and Noah from a life she projected onto them from her own painful childhood. She was sentenced to 11 years. After the case closed, investigators worked with child safety organizations to identify what, if anything, the Hendersons could have known. The conclusion was difficult but honest. Rachel's background check was clean because she had never been convicted of anything. Her references were genuine. Her behavior was impeccable for 8 months. There was no clear warning sign that a reasonable parent would have caught. Cases like this one leave parents feeling terrified and helpless. But there are practical steps that genuinely improve safety. Use a GPS-enabled device or app on your child when they are in someone else's care. Establish a check-in protocol with your childcare provider. A text at a set time confirming everything is fine. Know the full legal name, address, and vehicle of anyone caring for your children. Ella and Noah Henderson are doing well today. Ella is now in 3rd grade. Noah just started 1st grade. Their parents have spoken publicly about the importance of mental health resources for caregivers and about the Amber Alert system that helped bring their children home. If you found this story important, hit subscribe. New videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Plain English, real stories. See you Friday. If a child is missing in your area, call 911 immediately. You can also contact the National Center for Missing and Exploited Persons at missingkids.org or call 1-800-DL. Most Amber Alerts are issued through local law enforcement and distributed automatically to mobile phones in the affected area. This video is for educational purposes only. Names and identifying details have been changed to protect the families involved. This story is based on documented child abduction cases in the United States.